Could a boy born to a young teenager become the wisest man in China? Although Confucius' life as a child was hard, he grew up to be a superior government leader, and then left his government job to become a very wise teacher. When Confucius' mother was 17 years old, she eagerly prayed for a son. Her prayers were answered, and she named him Kung Chu, which means hill in Chinese, because he had an unusually large bump on his head. Later, Christian missionaries changed it to the Latin name Confucius. Unlike most children, Confucius delighted in pretending he was in the elaborate temples, performing somber rituals. He was tranquilly spiritual. Most of China was poor, including Confucius and his mother, and only royal rich families owned land. Royal families would battle each other to become the rulers of Lu, Confucius' home state in China. Since he was polite, tall, and strong, Confucius started to work for a nobleman who sent him to the grand imperial city when he was 15 years old. All of the ancient and wise classical writings of China were kept in the imperial city. In China, poor people were not allowed to be educated or go to school. Confucius was excited to study these classical works in the amazing imperial city and learn from these ancient writings. After he was married, Confucius started working at a grain store, and he was known for being especially fair in measuring the grain. Wholeheartedly, he loved tradition and strict ancient laws and rituals. He studied in the famous imperial city. China was cruelly corrupt and in considerable poverty. There were countless crimes and murders that produced misery among the citizens of Lu. Confucius believed that rules made a delightful and peaceful society. He also boldly believed that people should worship and remember their ancestors. After working at the grain store, Confucius was promoted to govern a nobleman's land, which was a beginner's government job. He began to implement with diligence his strict moral teachings and ancient rituals among the citizens of Lu, his home state. Sadly, in 511 BC, Confucius left his government job because other corrupt government leaders thought his teachings and rituals were too difficult for the people to follow. After he left, Confucius started China's first private school and taught his students how to pray to their ancestors and the importance of obeying rules. Later, government rulers offered him the position of Secretary of Public Works. He accepted the job and later became the Grand Secretary of Justice. He began successfully implementing his moral teachings and rituals into the government and its citizens. After 1 year, there were less crime, violence, and assassinations. Wonderfully, the city of Lu was a tremendously joyful place. When Confucius left the government in 511 BC, he established the first Chinese private school. Although some people in China thought only rich children should go to school, Confucius believed that all children should be educated. So he accepted all students who had the thirst to learn, rich and poor. Unlike government leaders he worked with, his students thought his teachings were exceedingly important. So they carefully carved them in the stone tablets so they would last for centuries. According to his students, some of the most valuable teachings include, if you know something, say it. If you don't, admit it. This is true wisdom. Other teachers taught in classrooms, but Confucius wisely taught his students exploring the country. One time, when they were hiking, they saw a widow crying by a grave. The student asked why she was crying. The mournful widow answered that her husband and child were devoured by ferocious wild tigers. Sympathetically, the student asked why she didn't move to a safer city. She replied that her city rulers were fair and honest, and that she was worried that other cities might have corrupt leaders. Confucius told his students that a corrupt government is fiercer than a wild tigers. Confucius's favorite teaching was love your neighbor as leaders should love their subjects. Confucius was changing China one student at a time. Life as a boy was hard for Confucius, but that didn't stop him from implementing his teachings in government and through his students. Confucius's teachings are still needed today. They teach us to love one another like God does. Any society could be wonderful and peaceful if they followed the wise morals and teachings established by a humble man born to a poor teenager.